Hi weaving friends, today we're going to have a little chat about what I would do differently if I wanted to start selling my hand wovens this year in 2023. Before I start, I want to give you a couple of references that I have that are really relevant to today's topic. Firstly, I have a blog post that is all about selling for weavers, going through all different ins and outs of what you want to do if you are just starting out selling your hand wovens. And then I also have a members only class. So if you're a member of the online weaving school, you can access that. It's in your class library under Selling for Weavers. That is a kind of workshop that I made that fleshes out the ideas a lot more than the blog post does. I'm going to leave a link to both of those references down below. So a little bit about my story, if you haven't heard it already. I started selling on Etsy way back in 2008, which is quite a long time ago now. I wasn't selling my hand wovens at that time, but I was selling handmade items, and I have consistently sold handmade items on Etsy from 2008 up until now. I don't tend to sell so much now simply because the weaving school has taken over everything else and pretty much demands all of my time. And so I really don't have time left over to be making hand wovens to sell anymore. That's not that I won't ever again. I would like to, but I'll just see what the future brings in that regard. But as you can probably tell, I do have quite a bit of experience selling handmade goods. So when I started on Etsy in 2008, I was mostly selling my handmade dolls. And the climate was very different back then in a lot of different ways. Etsy was actually fairly new at that time, and you didn't have to pay an arm and a leg for shipping and that kind of thing. So in some ways it was easier. But at the same time, I think overall, the whole experience would be a better one for me if I was starting now because of the points that I'm going to make today. If you have a look at my Etsy shop as it is now, and I'll link to it down below, it has all digital products. I was pre-COVID selling kits for one of my scarf patterns, but I had to stop selling the kits because the postage was so unreliable at that time, and now the prices are just really exorbitant. And so if someone has a special request, I will still put a kit together and physically mail that out to you, but that's not really my focus now. So I'm going to take you through a number of different points for things that I would do differently now to what I did back then. The first thing that I think is really important is to have confidence in yourself and in your product. In some regards, I think how successful you're going to be in life does come down to how confident you are, because confidence instills confidence. Think about the times that you personally have spoken to someone who is obviously really lacking confidence, and then you've spoken to someone who obviously has a lot of confidence. Which person is it more easy to put your trust in? Or someone that you feel you can rely on? But it's not just personal confidence, it's also having the confidence that you have a really good product and that you stand behind your product as well. And I certainly, when I started out selling, had a huge lack of confidence in pretty much every regard. And it just takes time to build that. And the more you build it, the more it builds. The next thing is I would be more realistic with my pricing. And this feeds very much into the confidence thing. Knowing that you have a really good quality product with good quality materials that you've invested your time and effort into and your talent, and that you then feel it is very fair to charge an appropriate pricing for that. So one of the reasons that I stopped making handmade dolls way back then is because I realized that I was not making any money, and in fact they were costing me more money to make than I was making back for the time that I was putting in. And that was a really hard lesson to learn, because if you really love doing something, you want to make it work. But at the same time, when you also have to try and provide an income, the two things have to meet in the middle somehow, so that you can have a happy balance of doing something that you really enjoy, but also being able to get benefits out of that that are fair to you as a seller. I think pricing is one of the biggest pain points for people who start selling, because you feel like you have that sort of imposter syndrome of, who am I to, charge these kind of prices and expect people to buy my items? That is just so common. And that leads me into my next point that I would do differently, is not to be apologetic about my pricing. You're putting yourself on the back foot if you somehow in the back of your mind think that your pricing might not be fair. And so then if someone challenges you on your pricing, then you're not going to be able to represent yourself really well in that situation, because that person's going to have the upper hand if you have any doubts in your mind. And that is something that you will get. You will have people challenge you on your pricing. And I think the best way to think about anyone who challenges you on your pricing, that person is not your customer. They're not going to be your customer, and you don't need to worry about them. Now, if you get challenged on your pricing a lot, if it happens constantly, then you may need to consider, are my prices actually fair for both the customer and me? But if you feel that they are really fair, then you need to just forget about what they are saying and again, have confidence in what you're doing. I've often felt like I have to explain to people why I've priced something the way that I have, by pointing out, oh, well, these materials, they were expensive, or this particular part of the process, it took me however many hours it took me. And while it may be good to explain that to some people, if they're actually genuinely interested, because it's part of educating them about the handmade process, there are people who are just going to waste your time. They're never going to buy anything from you, and it's better to just forget about them and focus on your real customers. Okay, so if I was starting out today, I would aim for a different market. It's important to know before you start selling, who am I going to sell to? Who is my ideal customer? And then to formulate everything else around that, the types of items that you make, your pricing, all of those things. So personally, I would go for a boutique high-end market. I wouldn't bother with any kind of middle or lower market personally myself if I was starting to sell now. Lots of reasons for doing this, but the main one is that I think in a high-end market, people do appreciate what they're buying from you and they know the quality of what you're doing. And people who appreciate quality are willing to pay for it. These are the kind of people who can become your long-term customers and who you can actually build relationships with, because when they buy something from you, they are somewhat invested in you. I want to expand on this point a little bit more. I can easily give you an example of, let's say, a scarf. If you saw a scarf and it was hanging at, let's say, somewhere like Target, and you saw the price on the scarf was $30. You know that the scarf is machine made, you know that it's made probably in China, and you know that it likely didn't cost very much to make, and perhaps the people involved in making it are not getting fairly paid. Compare that to walking past a boutique shop where you see a scarf hanging and it's $300. You can see that there's a huge difference between how someone's going to perceive that $30 scarf and how someone is going to perceive the $300 scarf. One is going to attract a certain audience and the other is going to attract a different audience. And so it makes sense for you as a seller to want to attract the customer who's going to be looking at the $300 scarf, knowing the value of it. To further expand on this topic, because I think it's just a huge thing that you could talk about for ages. I often see people, I often see weavers online talking about doing small craft fairs or maybe church fetes or just little markets in their towns. And I urge you to be careful about how you are going to market yourself if you're going to be going out there doing markets. Me personally, I wouldn't do a small time market at all if I was going to start selling my hand wovens again. I just wouldn't bother with it because I don't think the mentality is there. It's kind of like fishing in a massive ocean, not really sure what bait to use, not sure what line to use, not sure where to cast in, and really not sure if you're going to catch anything at all. It's the same thing. So if I was going to do any kind of market, I would be looking for a boutique handmakers market, one that has high standards, so not just the one that you pay your money and show up on the day and have your market stall, but one that has an application process to ensure quality control. So you know that there is going to be a high standard and everybody at that market, all of the market sellers, are going to have gone through the same process in order to be there that day. Then the people who are attending the market, they already know that this is a high quality market. They're not just walking in, just browsing through. It's something that they know about and they've come to attend because they want to see those high quality, unique, beautiful handmade products. How much more likely are you to actually sell some products on that day than if you do some small time market where you might actually have a negative experience of people walking past saying things like, I could buy that down at Target for $30. That doesn't do anything for your morale and really it's a waste of your time. Now, if you disagree with me on any of these points, that's fine. I'd love to hear about it in the comments. If you have had success at smaller markets, and I don't mean just success in selling things for a low price. I mean setting your prices to what you think is fair and good and high enough to make an income from, and then selling enough of those products. I don't mind at all if you don't agree with what I'm saying. That's why I titled the video what I would do if I was restarting. But I'm really happy to hear other people's experiences and opinions, because it can vary from country to country, state to state, wherever you live in the world. Things can be quite different in different places. But basically, if your pricing is right, if it's high enough, then you as the weaver can focus more on making hand-woven quality products rather than being forced into that mentality of having to churn out as much as you can, as fast as you can, in order to make enough money to stay afloat. So my next point's a bit of a funny one because I said this is things that I would do differently today, but I think I've done fairly well at this point all along. But I just want to have it in here because it's such an important thing, and that is to provide exceptional customer service. This is something that I think is so lacking these days, in conjunction with the general degradation of things like basic etiquette, appropriate language, appropriate dress, and all the things that have slowly but surely degraded over time. But customer service is one of the things that I'm finding is really lacking. And I don't think it matters these days whether it's a bricks and mortar shop that you go into, whether it's an online service, whatever it is. I think it's hard to find really good customer service these days. And so I think that if you do provide really good customer service, you want to surprise people. You want people to think, oh wow, it's great that good customer service does still exist. I mean, think about it for yourself. Your last experience of great customer service, you know, where someone went above and beyond, or even just when someone was really friendly and helpful to you. You remember that and it matters. And you remember that business and you want to go back. You want to be a repeat customer. Of course you do. So what kind of things am I talking about with good customer service? I'm talking about honest and open communication. I'm talking about availability. So if someone wants to contact you, maybe they have a problem with an item, to be onto it as soon as you possibly can. Or if someone's making an inquiry, perhaps they're emailing you, you get an email inquiry, not to leave it for days and days, but if possible to respond as soon as you can. And to think about the words customer service. You are serving your customer. So think about what it means to serve someone and how you can best serve someone. It might seem pretty basic and common sense, but I see customer service as just becoming worse and worse, and no one seems to care about it. And businesses just don't seem to care about it, or they don't seem to recognize how crucial it is. And so providing good customer service, you are going to stand out. Okay, my next point for what I would do differently is I would recognize that I had to be in this for the long game. I think when I started selling all those years ago, I didn't think ahead too much. I was just kind of doing what I was doing at the time and trying to make a little bit of money. But really, to build a successful business, it really does take time. I can use my weaving school as an example, that it's been running for nearly 6 years and has started to become successful in the last 2 years. Now, there have been so many times, so many times, where I've wanted to give up on it because it didn't seem worth all of the work, all of the effort. So all of those times that I would have given up and I wouldn't have known what I know now, that you just need to stick at it, keep providing that quality and building on it, and then success will naturally happen. Yes, it can be very hard when you are not really making any money, when you're trying to build a space or a place for your business and it feels slow and you just don't know what's going to happen. But I guess that's the point. You don't know what's around the corner. If you keep trying and keep striving and don't let that level of quality drop, then you just don't know what could happen. I do have one more point that I want to make, but I wanted to come back to confidence because I just have one more thing that I want to say about that. So if you really feel that you are lacking confidence and that is getting in the way of you being able to do the things that you want to do, I think it's really great to have a look at why you are lacking that confidence and really try to break it down into specific reasons and points. Write them down if you have to. So is it your lack of belief in yourself? Is it your lack of belief in your product? Try to differentiate between whether you are being a perfectionist or whether you do actually need to do a little more work on your products to get them up to scratch, to get them to that higher level so that you can get the higher pricing and just so that you can know that you're making really quality things. If you're not sure about your products, try to get some opinions from other people. Sometimes family and friends can be good for opinions, sometimes not so much, depends on your situation. If you can get opinions from other makers, doesn't even have to be other weavers, but other people who are hand makers and can appreciate that, that can be a really good thing. Also, you can get people's opinions online. You can post photos of your products, ask people, do you think I'm ready to start selling these products? Is there anything that stands out to you that might need brushing up? People online in weaving groups are generally very friendly, helpful people. They're not going to judge you, but they might help you to give that confidence that you need to get started. Okay, the last thing that I would do differently is I would start building an audience right away. This is something that I didn't do in the beginning, and it's mega important. You need to be able to have a way of contacting people who might be interested in your products, and it's always great to have a community of people who are interested in you and what you do, and that can really help with referrals as well. So what I would do is I would start building an email list, and this is something that I didn't do for many years. I think probably just because I didn't know how to, I didn't know what to do, I didn't know how to start. How do you start building an audience from scratch with no one, with nothing? Well, the first thing is to choose an email provider so that you have a way of actually sending out emails to a group of people, no matter how small or large the numbers are. For myself, I use Convertkit and I think they are absolutely fantastic. They take a little bit of the work out for you by having all kinds of automations and things, but at the same time, they're easy enough to get started with, and they do have a free version. So I'm going to link to Convertkit down below. Sometimes people will start on a different email provider, but they usually end up at Convertkit. So that really says something. So how would you start gathering that audience? Well, one way would be to provide something to them in return for subscribing to your email. That something could be, these are just a few ideas, a discount to any of your handwoven products. The discount would be up to you, 10% off, 15% off. That's a good place to start. That provides someone with an incentive to want to sign up. Another incentive could be that you provide them with a free PDF, and the PDF could be on something related to what you're doing. So it could be a PDF about ways to care for your handwoven products. It could be an educational PDF on the benefits of buying and using handwoven. It could include details about your process and your materials. It could have a photo of you. Don't be afraid to have photos of yourself out there. It's okay. Yes, it takes some getting used to, but you will get used to it. Or you could maybe offer a small gift with someone's first purchase when they sign up for your email. Things like this. Just a little incentive or something in return to make it more attractive to someone to want to sign up to your list. And then once you have someone on your list, then you have a way to stay in touch with them, which is a really crucial way to run business. You want to be able to tell people about your new products. You want to be able to educate them about why your products are so great. You want to build the momentum and excitement that customers might have about you having new stuff come out. Emailing is definitely the way to go. Okay, so that's all the points that I have today, and I hope they were helpful for you. If you want to keep the conversation going, leave a comment down below. If you have questions, if you have thoughts that you want to share, if you want to refute some of the things that I've said, as long as it's kind and constructive, I'm absolutely fine with all of that. And so until next time, happy weaving.